Welcome to this edition of Three Marlets Movies and Game Reviews, where we finally kick off the summer movie season of 2011. It is now upon us, with the opening of Thor last night, which I attended the midnight opening for. And I had to also go at work at 6 this morning, so I am really doing this review on a lot of sleep. Oh yeah. But regardless, let's get my first impression out of the way, and that is, this movie is great. It's a great kickoff for the summer. I had a lot of fun with this movie. It was funny. It was exciting. It was good. It's good to see a good blockbuster film. This is pretty much, it was good all around. I love the visual style. The script was alright. I'm happy. Now we're going to maybe get into some spoiler territory. Not too much, but let me just run down the cast real quick. Chris Hemsworth as Thor, great choice, did a great performance. He was both kind of serious in a badass way. He also had this kind of, I want to say, boyish charm or boyish look to him, which it really plays well to the plot, especially in the earlier parts where this is kind of him. Thor as a character is kind of supposed to be starting off. He's mature physically, but he doesn't have that kingly maturity of him yet. And Chris Hemsworth does have this thing where at the beginning he does seem very boyish, innocent, not necessarily innocent, but this kind of immature attitude. But later on in the film he does have this mature presence. So. And that really ties like the theme of the film, which works very, very well. Natalie Portman very well, as well as Jane Foster. Very funny in her part. She does kind of fall for Thor there, but luckily there's no conversations about sand that make her do it, so it's a step up. Anthony Hopkins, always enjoyable. Tom Hiddleston, I can't pronounce his name. Tom Hiddleston, I know I did it wrong, as Loki was a very good job, a very nice look at Loki. He wasn't too much like Joker-like, going, he was a trickster, but he wasn't necessarily like funny. He definitely did the trickster stuff, and it was very interesting to see his character's motivation, where he's not really this evil villain for evil's sake. Not even like the Hitler type of, I'm gonna take over and rule things how I think they should. It's really, and this is where I'm gonna say it's getting into spoiler, everything he does, even, and this was quite a surprising turn at the end, was all about him trying to get the approval of his father. Even when it looks like he's completely backstabbing his father, he's really just trying to get his attention and affection, and trying to get that respect from Odin, even though Odin is not technically his father. But I think that was a good ploy. Basically, what they do with this is Loki's supposed to be a half frost giant, or not frost. He's a frost giant that kind of Odin made. Your skin is white, and he raises him as his own son. And it looks like Loki is gonna go turn. As again I said, this is spoiler territory now. You have my initial, recommendation. So if you just want to know that, it's there. But if you want kind of a spoilerific review, here we go. Where was I? Yes. It looks like Loki's selling out Asgard to the Frost Giants, and it looks like it made sense even. It wasn't this, I'm selling out for evil, I'm selling out because I want power. But in the end, he's actually set this whole thing up so he can stop them from killing his father, so that he gets all the affection. It's an interesting character trait. It's very good. It really, this kind of father-son relationship, both with Odin with Thor and with Loki, is really the central plot of the movie. I can see what Anthony Hopkins meant by when he was saying, when he never heard of really Thor before, but he loved this kind of father-son dynamic, which plays not only with Thor but with Loki, and there's a really good theme there, which I liked. I should mention this because I did not catch this coming, But Hawkeye is in this movie. He doesn't. They don't shoot the bow. He doesn't shoot the bow. I guess they're holding off. But when Thor's breaking into the shield compound around the hammer, they basically go, we need a gun on this guy or something along those lines. And you see kind of a guy running in. You don't see his face. He goes for a sniper rifle, stops. He goes up and picks up a bow instead, and hops on this kind of thing that raises him up. And he doesn't shoot it. He holds off on shooting him because he doesn't get the order to. But you hear him talk, and it's Hawkeye. He's still not listed. At least I'm not seeing him in the full cast and crew here. 1 second on IMDb. But he probably is under, I guess, his character's regular full name, or this no one's bothered updating it. This might have been a purposefully kept suppressed until the actual release to give us a little like, oh, hey, he's in here. If that's the case, kudos to Marvel Studios for doing that. Who else? We have Stellan. All right, he's a Norwegian actor. I'm never gonna get his name right, but Eric Selvig, the character, his name. Interesting little character, kind of a fatherish relationship to Natalie Portman, our mentor relationship, I guess, there. But he, again, this is spoiler territory, winds up at the end having like Loki's like haunting him as basically S.H.I.E.L.D. picks up his and Natalie Portman's research, or Jane Foster's research, very much hinting at what's going to go on with the Avengers, which is, you know what, I think I'm just going to have to talk about the plot in general. The plot's rather well done, without kind of going too over the board, where it's basically, you can kind of pick up the basic plot from the trailer. Thor basically winds up going to the Frost Giant planet and breaking a peace treaty, kind of, between them and Asgard, although there's some manipulation there from Loki. Odin casts him out. He arrives on Earth. He lands in this giant vortex thing, in which Natalie Portman sees it and decides the best thing is to run straight into this giant energy beam that's hitting the ground, causing all this destruction. Exactly what a scientist should do. Run straight in. I mean, if she was a volcanologist, she would probably try to go diving into a volcano. She is not the smartest of scientists. And winds up hitting Thor, who's now lost all his powers and therefore fairly mortal and kind of easy to beat up, which, after recovering slightly from his glancing hit from the car, starts spouting off crazy stuff, and they tase him. And it's just really all played very funny, and it's not like just funny like, oh, not too mature-ish, if you kind of get what I'm saying there. I hope you do. They do kind of do the fish out of water thing a lot with Thor. After he wakes up, goes to the place, he kind of drinks some coffee, goes, excellent drink, bring more, and smashes it, and it did get a very big rile, and I laughed at it. It was funny. They do a few of these, but they don't overdo it. And they don't play Thor as a complete idiot. Like, the little fish out of water stuff he has, or not the little, but whenever he has this fish out of water stuff, it's reasonable. Like, he goes into a pet store, because he kind of gets, they sell animals in here. Well, if I need to get across town to where I've heard this hammer has fallen. So, logically, the place that sells animals is a place you can buy a horse, because apparently in Asgard they have interplanetary horses. I kid you not. I kind of skipped over a lot of the beginning there, but yeah, so he walks in and he goes, yeah, I need a horse. We don't sell horses. We have dogs, cats, or iguanas. Give me one of them large enough to ride. We don't. It's kind of it's played a lot funnier than how I just did it, but it's funny. They don't overdo it. And then a little while later, he kind of picks up that he's been making a lot of these battle mistakes, and he's the one that brings up, you think I'm stupid because I'm doing all this stuff, because he's not used to it. So he's the one that actually brings it up. So it helps for character-wise on having a complete idiot just thrown in there. Like I said, most of the stuff he makes is kind of cultural mistakes, or just how his mannerisms of speech fits within his world. They don't necessarily fit in New Mexico. And eventually Loki decides to send this destroyer armor down. Thor kind of sacrifices himself, regains his power, goes back, kicks Loki's ass. To kind of sum everything up, I don't think I have to go into every little detail with the plot, because this will go on for quite a while. But what else should I say? With this, I do have to say a few things with the setup for the Avengers. It's nice to see Agent Coulson. It's actually, as a character, I believe was just created for the movies. Originally he was just an Iron Man, the first one, because they didn't want to bring in Nick Fury fully. They kind of wanted to slowly bring everybody into the Marvel Universe. So they had the little end scene, but for everything else, they decided have a lower level agent kind of interact with Tony Stark at first. But then in Iron Man 2, they decided to bring back so many people from the first film. He was back, and then I guess they suddenly realized that he'd be a perfect connection point for Thor. And at this point now, this character has been in so many of the movies that he is now pretty much a big part of the canon for Marvel's movie universe. It's just fascinating to see how this happened. This is very much like a Harley Quinn type thing, where you add in a little character, you don't really intend that to become big. You just kind of add him because the plot kind of needs a small little character like this, but he kind of blows up and grows. He's in there. He does the same performance, fairly funny. He's got the little dry, sarcastic streak to him. But the one thing, and I almost feel like there's a couple of scenes missing here, like they were cut out for pacing reasons. But after the destroyer armor comes to Earth, starts blowing stuff up, and Thor sacrifices himself, in which case he regains his power and kicks the armor's ass, or destroyer's ass. Coulson, he kind of goes, the shield guy shows up and he goes, "You and I fight on the same side. If you give her back," by the way, shield took Jane Foster's research earlier in the film, and he's like, "If you give her back her research, I will you can consider me an ally and call upon me." Before that, all Thor's interactions with S.H.I.E.L.D. was breaking into their base and having them beat up and capture him, and them taking all of Natalie Portman's character's scientific findings. So I almost feel like there was a scene that was cut out where they were helping, either he saw the S.H.I.E.L.D. guys helping people evacuate the town, and therefore he saw that, no, these guys are not bad, they're responsible for the people, or that there was like a team of agents following him, because they had captured him, and if you're wondering how they got out, since he doesn't have his powers, and he wasn't able to pull the hammer out at that time, they decide to let him go just so they can follow him, because they think he's working for somebody. And you see the agents later on kind of call in when Thor's buddies show up, but then you don't see them for the rest of the attack. So I wonder if there was a cutout scene where they tried to help Thor, and that's why Thor immediately went, "I see that you are good, and we fight for the same cause," type thing, because you really didn't see that how the film is cut now. And that is kind of key, because that is setting up for the Avengers. That is like one of the setup lines for the Avengers, and you figure that would have been it. I mean, when you really think about it, they only needed a couple seconds to really establish that, for him to see that S.H.I.E.L.D. is not bad guys. I can only imagine that it was done, but for pacing reasons, like it would take too much out of the pace of the film, they decided to cut it and just leave Thor giving his little speech, which in itself is kind of pace breaking. But after the credits. Well, no, I already talked about after the credits. There's some also. I think this is about it. The visual style. I almost forgot. I love the visual style they did for Asgard. They really did do a good job of melding this kind of ancient and super high tech together. Normally when they try to do this, it's like they'll put a stone wall and then they'll put a couple like random like wires or a screen in it for some reason, which is yeah, it's really just like literally putting two things and fusing them together. You can still clearly see what's what. It's like being a cyborg, you know, like a Borg from Star Trek. You know, they take the human parts and the machine parts, and you can see which parts are human. Which, you know, they have the human face, rest machine. That's how they normally winds up looking when they try to do this look of combining ancient and super high tech. This is a good real medium, like it's really fused. There's when they're in these rooms in like Asgard, like they have like the fire pit, but it's a high tech looking fire pit, and the rest of the room looks very well polished. It looks very natural together, even though it's got this fusion. It's a very unique look, and I give the film a lot of credit for this visual style that they did for Asgard, where it really does feel like a good fusion between ancient and sci-fi. It's a unique look, and it looks really, really good. I think that about wraps it up. I talked for about 16, 17 minutes here. So, I'm excited for Thor. Oh, yeah, I know I had said that I would probably have a guest reviewer for this. My friend apparently could not make it last night, and the other people I went with this don't do reviews online, so no guest review. Maybe for Priest. But yeah, that is Thor. Check it out. I highly recommend it. I need to get a glass of water. Signing off. See you guys later.